the deep voice you have, your tone. It's very soothing. You have a way to subdue a crowd. You mentioned when we started recording that even a more raucous Hindu, you seem to be able to calm them down a little bit.
Yes. There was a Hindu at like a bottomless brunch type situation. So everyone was drunk as hell. And everyone else was getting interrupted before me. And then I went on and they were just like a nice high energy crowd. I'm guessing Hindu because they were in matching clothes. One of them tried to start talking and her friend like, whoosh, and I was like, oh, that's nice. That's very polite.
Hello, welcome to Comedy with an Accent podcast. I'm your Taiwanese comedian, Quan Wen. I interview comedians who perform English stand-up comedy but who are not native English speakers or they can have very distinct British regional accent. This podcast is all about comedy, about accent, about languages, and about the comedy technique. So stay tuned if you're interested. Hello, welcome back to another episode of a Comedy with the Accent podcast. How do I start this one? Right, Julian, I know both you and Alex don't like this bit, but I've realized I've ever asked you where my guest accent is from when they are white. I thought that's really unfair to my non-white guest. So based on Vidura's accent, where do you think he's from?
Sri Lanka.
How do you know?
I've heard you.
Oh, no! We shouldn't have done that. Could you tell, though?
No idea.
No idea.
Because you said it, then I thought, your skin complexion is a bit, because Sri Lankans are a little bit darker.
Yes, yeah, like from North India to South India to Sri Lanka, we just get a little bit darker as you go down. And then I'm dark for Sri Lanka as well.
You're dark for Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
Are we getting into that discussion 2 minutes into the podcast? Let's talk about colorism on the subcontinent.
Yes, on the subcontinent, because my family moved to the US and then moved back. So the base of my English is American. And then you're one of the few people that said that you can hear like a South Asian accent in the way I speak.
Okay, so let me introduce you properly before we get into the juicy bit. Our guest today is Vidura, Bandara, Rajapaksa. I hope I did it justice because I've been calling him Vidura for months, and I heard him casually introduce himself. Vidura, if you have struggled with his name, you will know him as Vid. If you are an insistent English speaker, he will call himself Vidura, but it's Vidura. Welcome. And because of people's struggle with foreign language in general, you might know him as Vidura BR.
And also me trying to downplay a somewhat troublesome last name. So on the internet, it's Vidura BR. No one actually calls me that, but I'm very happy. No one actually calls me that. Vidura. I'm just waiting until I can scrap the two last names altogether and just do a Adele or a Beyonce and just be Vidura.
Yeah, which I'm already doing. Vidura goes by Vidura BR for a reason because his last name is exactly the same one as a very corrupt, evil political family in Sri Lanka.
No relation, only a coincidence. It's a terrible coincidence. I wouldn't have.
Or maybe there is some. No, you just haven't discovered. You just need to send your DNA sample to.
I wouldn't be doing this if I had that palm oil money. So no.
It's really scary because to do the recording today, I had a proper look into the political scandal. I know it was always on the news, but the name was so long. I didn't know there were several of them. There was an evil patriarch with different sons, and they were all involved at different stages. One may be a cabinet minister of the brother, etc. The last president was ousted, and the Sri Lankan, normally quite a peaceful people, storm his residence. You can see how much shit there must be
historically not a peaceful people. I think if you visit, there's a peaceful vibe, but then it's been a violent country since we've been a country.
Okay.
Sort of.
One thing I'm going to say, I'm going to count how many times you say vibe today.
Okay.
And we will do a tally at the end of this podcast.
Do I say it a lot?
Do you realize you say it a lot?
No, I know I'd like to get that feeling across. I'll either say feeling or vibe or energy because it sort of encapsulates enough in a word, but now I'm aware of it.
We'll get to that a bit later. My first question, you already answered it somehow, is do you think you have an accent when you speak English? Which you're halfway through it. Actually,
I have like a weird mixed accent where I think the base of it is American, but it's mostly quite anglicized, and then there's like little bits of Sri Lankan.
I think you have what I call a Netflix accent.
Oh, interesting.
As in, if you want to be cast as an actor and to be in a drama in a specific country, you might be rejected because we can't tell where you're from. But any drama on Netflix, the intended audience is global audience. You have lesser problem to be cast. So very international. You're a traveler, you're a world citizen. You definitely live in more than one country for a very very long time. That's general impression I've got. And the reason I say I don't know the exact phrasing I said to you, what I could tell is you obviously live in America for a very long time, but little trace of something else. I don't know what that is. I wouldn't know that's Sri Lankan. It doesn't sound particularly subcontinental to me. You could be from India or Pakistan or Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, or you could be Singaporean, for example.
Yeah,
and you could be from South Africa. The reason I say that because I have a lot of friends who moved from Taiwan to America, ranging between age of 8 to 13 and 12. They went over having spent a few years as a Mandarin speaker. So even though they eventually became fluent in English, even though they forgot how to speak Mandarin, there's always a base of something else below their English fluency.
Oh,
and that's what I feel from you. So you obviously spend a lot of time growing up in America, but you started with another different language, which I'm not familiar with.
That's Sinhala, which is because it's only spoken in Sri Lanka. And even in Sri Lanka, like say, in most office jobs, especially if they deal with places outside Sri Lanka, which we need to because we're a very small island, you need to speak English. So
is that policy for racial harmony?
What do you mean? In what way?
First,
for there to be a unifying language.
Yeah, so first the language. Is this Sinhala or Sinhalese?
Sinhala. Sinhalese people.
See, I used to have a flatmate in London, the first flat I have ever lived in. She described the language as Sinhalese, so maybe she got it wrong herself. But
maybe,
I
that's
think
why. It's not something we think about, but if I did think about it, language is definitely Sinhala. I guess Sinhalese would be, it's also the race of people.
When people say, do you speak Sri Lankan, you understand what they mean. But technically, there are more than one language on the island of Sri Lanka.
Yes, official languages are Sinhala, Tamil, English.
And Tamil is spoken by about 13% of the population in the north and the northeast.
Yeah, and then like even in Colombo, when I was living there, I spoke like a little bit to like be able to go into shopping, this sort of thing. Now it's all gone. Most of the Tamil population is there's hill country in the middle, and then the north and the east. The whole official language thing was of political contention for a long time. In the city, most people speak Sinhala. And then because it's such a tourist-dependent country, even in rural areas, a lot of people speak at least a functional level of somewhat broken English, but enough to communicate with the people they're trying to get money.
Right. So let's say, I think I have to explain first. Correct me if I'm wrong. You said your family moved from Sri Lanka to the U.S. when you were five.
And then moved back when I was 11.
So you spent 6 years in the US, yes. And then from 11 onwards, you live in Sri Lanka. Until you left again in adulthood.
In 17, went to uni in Malaysia. And then back to Sri Lanka for a few months. Then Berlin in Germany for 3-4 years.
Globe-trotter.
Yeah.
Which is your first language, you would say?
At this point, English. I don't, like, say I went back home, it would take me like a few days. I can understand just as well as I always could. The speaking is very broken, and my English accent bleeds into my Sinhala accent. And that goes away after a few days, but very unconfident. Because I don't practice, like my parents speak to them in English, my grandmother, I'd speak to her in a mix of Sinhala and English.
Let's say a TV channel in Sri Lanka suddenly want to interview you. Would you be comfortable doing it?
No,
Not even that level.
No. Not for an interview. It's because I forgot what I knew when we moved to the States and then relearned it as a teenager. So it is weirdly like it's a second language to me.
So even though there was only 6 years in the States, it was such a critical time of language development. It had been a rupture for your Sinhala.
I think so, yeah. I think any language, it's how much practice you get.
Yes.
And even when I'm in Sri Lanka, like say most young people around Colombo, I mean, this is also dependent on socioeconomic status, but like lower middle class and up speak English with each other most of the time. Yeah, it's one of those.
The perfect colony immigrant.
It's one of those.
I want to use a term, but that involves the N word, so I don't want to use it. But you know what I mean.
Oh, yes, yeah. I know what you mean. Because I think English, it's a social mobility language. Yeah. So in government schools in Sri Lanka, you do English medium you do both as a subject up till O-level age, like 14, 15, and then you pick English medium or Sinhala medium or Tamil medium, depending on what school you're in.
Okay.
And generally, if you want to like leave Sri Lanka at some point or just work in an office job, like a nice job.
And is there a pattern for the Sri Lankan people to want to leave Sri Lanka for a better life?
Yes. I mean, I think similar to like most developing countries, like at least in my friend group, there was definitely if we can leave, we'll leave sort of thing. mostly because of the case of like...
Let's say if you had never left Sri Lanka for the USA, you would have achieved the same level of frequency. It's just that your accent may be a different mix.
Yeah. If I like say lived in Sri Lanka my whole life and stayed there as an adult, then definitely I'd still have my Sinhala, I'd have a little bit of Tamil, and my English would be similarly strong because I get a lot of practice with it, but I also like, since I was a kid, have read exclusively in English. And I think that like...
And with internet, you would have been able to access the movies, the videos.
Exactly.
Do you dream in English or in Sinhala?
English.
English?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because even my like when my Sinhala was at its best, even then my vocabulary in English was more developed because I read in English.
So are you one of those people when you speak Sinhala, you would jam some English words in?
Yeah.
I hate it. No, I used to hate those people so much, but now I go back to Taiwan. You say language require practice. I don't want to be that. But I generally don't know how to say something in Mandarin, which is still horrible because when I speak English, there are words I don't remember how to say. So I feel like I'm retreating on both fronts. Maybe it's early Alzheimer. I don't know.
I think I've weirdly not deliberately committed very completely to English as my main language because I find that I'm more proficient at it than most native speakers are. But then I think that's because I use it so much. I like somewhat speak for a living and then I read a lot. So between those three things, it's become definitely main language by a good margin.
So people on the British Isles are extremely sensitive to accents. The only difference is whether they say or not. They always notice very small variation of accents because on this island there are so many.
I've never been to a place that is so... Everywhere notices. Like even in Sri Lanka, you can sort of tell.
But they're obsessed with it.
They're obsessed with it, and there's a social...
Did you hear that, British people? Why are you so obsessed with accent? But we need you because otherwise this podcast wouldn't exist with a minimal level of audience. So have you ever been told or people ask you, where's the accent from? Directly in your face?
Not really, because I think British people internally are very obsessed with their accents because it also denotes this weird...
Yeah.
Like, there's a social hierarchy associated with it.
Yes.
And then I think because I'm so clearly foreign, I'm exempt from this. So they don't necessarily care about me, which is nice.
They're curious, but not curious enough to have to offend you by asking you that direct question.
I don't think I would be offended because I know it's one of those, like, I know I have a weird accent compared to what is around. So it makes sense for people to be curious. And I'm clearly from somewhere else, and people usually want to know what somewhere else is. It doesn't happen too often, though. Sometimes, like, people will ask the specific question of already knowing I'm from Sri Lanka, why my accent doesn't sound Sri Lankan, and then I'll have to mention that I moved to the States.
How would a Sri Lankan accent sound like? Would it be like a lot of South Asian acts when they try to do this stereotypical, very bouncy kind of accent?
It's not as bouncy. It is, I guess, closest to a South Indian accent. So, like, the easiest reference I can give is when Ramesh Ranganathan, who is Sri Lankan, does his mother's voice, that accent. But also, like, accents change in Sri Lanka, even in Colombo, a Tamil family. Their English accent will be different than Sinhala family because their base language has different rhythms.
You don't see Romesh as your ultimate nemesis you need to remove, though, do you?
No, I think
so there can only be one Sri Lankan.
We serve very different demographics. Because he's very British, like, culturally, the way he presents, whereas I'm very not anything in particular, which now that I know what my audience looks like, they're also not anything in particular usually. A lot of, like, younger immigrants from places, from somewhere else, usually. That is, like, the common denominator.
It's very interesting that you compare your demographic to what people like about Trevor Noah.
Oh, interesting.
Because you say people come to you knowing or expecting you to have a perspective and they really want to know your take because you are well-traveled, but you're not from a typical Western specific privilege or middle-class background. You're from a foreign country. So you can see things from different angles. They want to know about it. And also, you do cultural commentary in your stuff. That ties into what you just said. You are so well-traveled. Did you see that reflected in the people coming to your comedy show?
Definitely. Like, they're all similar to me. Usually younger immigrants that have left their often developing country to come to London, or like most of the cities I'm able to do is because the people that follow me live in big cities, which I'm very happy about. That's where younger immigrants will move to. Generally, like, people like me want to be in a big city. That might be. It's a lot to assume that people care that much about my specific perspective, but...
Maybe they don't, but they appreciate that specific nature. For example, on a comedy lineup for a specific show, everyone is brilliant, but you need to have something to make people remember you by. I think people remember you by, that guy has a lot of interesting stuff, like premises or topics other people don't cover, or he covers in a way that we've never heard before.
Yeah, if I have like a strength in stand-up and what I do, it is a lot of my premises are like a point of view
Yeah.
rather than like the previous hour that I put out and I have somewhat of an audience from is a lot of social commentary. And then the new hour I'm doing is very like none at all, really. It's like very internal. But the same audience that comes enjoys that as well, because I think the common denominator is that every bit is sort of like a point of view. And it's the comedy that I like mostly is like very personality point of view driven. I would even argue that generally all good comedy, even if it's like not so like, it can even be a big example is like the Bo Burnham Inside special, where that point of view is very nihilistic, somewhat self-defeating. He never says that explicitly, but that is the feeling you get from every song in that piece of work.
But you also have social commentary.
Yeah, that's true. The previous
My favorite
one,
song from that special is White Woman's Instagram.
Oh, yes, yeah.
White woman's Instagram. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's true that he does have social
Yeah, right?
commentary. Yeah.
This is little Easter egg he planted.
Actually, I did like little interviews with newspapers back home, and there is a thing of like people say they relate to my stuff, and that feels nice because sometimes I feel like I'm not that Sri Lankan or not Sri Lankan enough.
Yeah, can we talk a little bit about that? Because you live in Sri Lanka for so long, but you did spend a bit of time abroad, and you're describing, you don't feel you're absolutely on the same level of some people. They think they can identify with you. What do you feel about that?
I think it's nice that people identify with, because I didn't expect it to be the case. Even when I was living there as a kid, I was like, I don't quite fit in here. Mostly due to things like it's a relatively socially conservative country that doesn't really match my values, stuff like this. In that way was the main thing, where I didn't know that many people that were similar to me or wanted similar things. And since I've left and I go back, even like without me opening my mouth, people know I'm foreign.
Your demeanor, your vibe. I'm the one who's using it.
Yes, my vibe. People usually think I'm an Indian tourist of some sort.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Before I say anything, I think demeanor, and then also there's visually a lot going on. Even in the cities, like this might have changed now. I'm thinking of like when I was living there, which was a decade ago.
How do I describe? Because Vidura has removed a couple layers of what he was wearing today. If you see some of those Instagram accounts that capture fashionable pedestrian in a big city, he will be one of those photos.
Oh, that's real.
That's been pinned on the top of the Instagram account, if that makes sense to you.
Oh, that's nice.
He's removed, I still have about 5 or 6 colors, but when I saw him at the tube station, I think there are about a dozen colors on his body.
Oh, yes, because I had a very colorful scarf.
Did you have a hat on today?
No, but I do like a hat. But say even if I was just like this, it would just be not normal, definitely. People would either think...
How did you even shop in Berlin? It was very difficult to find colors when you're trying to
that is true. They do like all black in Berlin. Lots of eBay. I get a lot of stuff on eBay. I've been told of this thing called Vinted, but I haven't tried it yet.
Sri Lankans can obviously see that you're foreign.
Yes, I think so. Even if I live there, I've lived somewhere else for a long time. Because Colombo is not the same as London as a city. Of like most people living in Colombo are from Colombo. And I think places like that, where everyone that's there is mostly from there, are just more conformist inherently.
It takes a lot of courage to just be yourself because people comment on it.
Yes, exactly. And back home, people thinking I'm from somewhere else gives me, I also have an out of like, he's not Sri Lankan, he can do what he wants. So there's that, which I do appreciate, because what I like about being in a big city is that thing of no one really cares about you.
So not anything malicious or critical, but you wanted to leave Sri Lanka. Is it because you feel like you always belong to a bigger stage? And Sri Lanka, even though it's not a tiny country, but it's not big. Is the sense of that? Or is some sort of provincial flair of it makes you feel a bit suffocating? How do you describe that?
I think one of it was a practical, like, I've always been a very ambitious kid. And then the scale of what you can do in Sri Lanka, it's a small place, there aren't that many people, is a certain amount. So there was that aspect of it. I didn't know I'd want to go into show business. And if I did, then it definitely wouldn't be so much of an option, really, because there aren't enough people to tour, like just in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, let's say if you're not a performer, your day job is a programmer.
Yeah.
Is it because you want to work for a bigger company or you want to live in a bigger city? Which one's more important?
It would, at the time, been a thing of want to live somewhere just generally more comfortable. Also, the lack of anonymity, where like Colombo in particular is a city, but it's a small place. So like say we went out for coffee to a random cafe, there'd be at least one person there that knows me for no other reason than like Colombo being such a small place.
Oh my God.
And it's just annoying. Like everywhere you go, like someone, I'm a very, generally reclusive private person. And Sri Lanka is not a place that allows for that, at least in the city.
And they will say that if you're such a private person, why do you put so much color on you, right? Give me this kind of really nasty comments. Like, but why not? If I want to do it, why not? Why can't I have both? Yeah.
No, I dress loudly for myself. There's a general lack of privacy also that my parents and my whole family would just be around.
That's exactly why I left Taiwan. There's always something going on that you have to attend the cousin's wedding or you need to pray for one random goddess because there's so many gods in Asia and there's always something.
That's why independence and autonomy were very important to me even when I was like a kid. And I was like, how do I make this happen? I can't have that here.
You basically prefer the Western lifestyle in a big city.
I think so. There is as a generalization, I think Eastern cultures are more communal and Western cultures are more individualist. And then as a person, I think I am just more individualist.
Basically, you're a very international comedian. I like to think I'm in the same league, but how do I say this? I didn't feel my attachment to my home country would be so strong. As in, because I'm currently writing my solo show for this year's Edinburgh Fringe. So I talk a lot more about Taiwan. To see my people, my compatriots come and talk to me after the show and then say, whatever I share about my grandma, for example, is absolutely relatable to them, it's absolutely bang on. They gave me so much comfort. So I don't know how you feel about, do you want to, or do you really identify as the comedian from Sri Lanka or just like the comedian? Oh, by the way, I'm also from Sri Lanka. Because you explained, I didn't spend years living abroad like you until I left university. So I like to think we have certain levels, similar.
Yeah.
But you live in the US as a kid for a substantial amount of time that I don't have. So I wonder what that made you feel about this attachment. Because I have very obvious root. I always long for an independent Western lifestyle. But it's not until I actually achieved that I felt, I still have so much connected back
interesting.
to Taiwan.
I think I have a weird relationship with back home where it is still home. Like I haven't been back since 2018, I think. Love Sri Lanka as a country. Not a big fan of Colombo as a city. I'm happy to put that up. I think most...
Because a lot of Sri Lankans are on your side on this issue.
Yes, that as well. I think most people in Colombo don't really like Colombo as a city.
Who likes it then? The people who live in the city don't like the city.
I think older people. But also, I'm commenting on the Colombo I know is 10 years ago. So it might have changed. But it's also say you're a young person that wants to make a life for themselves. There aren't so many opportunities, especially current economic situation, even less opportunities. And then there's sort of a way of doing things. A lot of people will end up working for their parents' company or something like this. And that's not a life I wanted to live.
It's a social prison in the most communal sense possible.
Yes, it is very...
You cannot escape your family
and it's very
ever.
interconnected.
So in a way, Sri Lankan couldn't really blame when you have an evil leader. He breathes his family into every aspect of the political system.
Yeah, because his son was they made up, I think, I'm not 100%, he was Minister of Sports or something sporting. I don't know if that position was there before.
He has too many sons for the position possible.
Something silly.
To accommodate his male proneness, he has to create one more cabinet minister position.
Yes. And it's the case of say you were out on a night out with your friends and you're in a club and there's a minister's son there. That's a liability. Be in your friend group, one of the bodyguards of minister's son will come over and point to one of the girls in the group and be like, you're coming with us because he wants to hang out with you. She sort of can't say no. There are stories like that. Minister's sons are a troublesome breed. But then that is general developing country political corruption. It's terrible.
Yeah.
That was the norm when I was there. Not the norm, but it happened. It's a strange relationship because I've lived long term in a lot of places. I have different amounts of attachment to the different places. I think as an adult, weirdly, Berlin feels like my hometown. I feel I've had disproportionately more good times there than I have in Colombo. Sri Lanka wasn't terrible, but then life started getting better very quickly as soon as I left. But then that's more I got lucky. I moved to Berlin. There was I started stand-up. That wasn't planned. Now, if I want to feel at home in a place, I'll go back to Berlin much sooner than I would Sri Lanka. And then now London is starting to feel more and more like home. I haven't been anywhere quite long enough to really call it home because Sri Lanka, I was there 12 years of my childhood, but then 2 broken up. So there was a 5-year chunk and a 7-year chunk.
If we have to look for somewhere you identify with, you identify more with a city than a land.
Yes, more
you don't
city.
really say Germany.
I'm not Germany. I'm not Germany.
See, I've noticed you mentioned so much Colombo rather than Sri Lanka and so much Berlin rather than Germany.
I'm very, very much a city boy. Really.
Don't let me ever see you on the BBC program Escape to the Country. I was like, you're ultimate hypocrite.
I sold out.
What's the difference between a more international crowd and a more localized crowd for you?
Oh, I think...
How does that restrict you or made you have to adapt or tailor your stuff in a different way?
I'm very stubborn in that I think I honestly say I've never like tailored my stuff to an audience. I'll edit as in like say I have an hour material. I'll have the stuff I can do to like a British club audience.
Yes.
And then the stuff I'll do to weirdly because there's a thing of like I won't be and I don't necessarily want to be like the Sri Lankan comedian. I don't see a world where my audience
You want
is
to be
mostly South
Vidura.
Asian. Yeah, just me. I'm very much like people come to see me, not the Sri Lankan guy. And like Sri Lanka is a big part of who I am, so that's inevitable.
But it could be worse, right? People can come to you and ask you and think you are the Indian comedian.
Oh,
you know what
yes,
I'm talking
yeah,
about. So that's
definitely.
always worse.
Yes, there is a level of...
So why don't you talk about Abu from The Simpsons? Have people ever say that to you?
No, not really. I think like if they saw me perform even a shorter set, they know that's not my vibe. But I think the Sri Lankans that do like me aren't necessarily the more common demographic of Sri Lanka. They skew more liberal, I think naturally, younger. Exclusively younger, like under 40, more general shows, not my audience. Like a general club show, here they have like the racially themed evenings that are like the brown shows.
Racially deep.
Racially themed evenings.
That's why we live in London.
Where I don't do well at those because I think people that come for like a brown comedy show want a Russell Peters genre of comedy.
Right.
Which that's a very fair genre. Like a lot of people do that very well. I'm not one of those people.
When people expect a Russell Peter type of show, you don't do quite as well.
Oh, I do terribly. I do really bad.
Are you just too much a perfectionist? You're not dying.
Oh, no. It's
anything that doesn't include rowdy applause to you is not good enough.
Yes, exactly. Like
See?
anything that isn't like, I have my standard. If I don't meet my standard, I'm very upset with, not with myself. I'm like, that I judge that as this didn't go well.
If people laugh really loudly, but there's not one single applause.
Oh, no, I can...
You can live with that.
I can live with that.
So do you think an audience of all shades and color or nationality might actually be better, easier for you than a night of almost exclusively subcontinental or brown audience?
It depends on like the sub-demographic of the subcontinental audience. If it's like younger city people, I'll do great. If it's not, if it's like there's aunties and uncles and this sort of vibe, I'm going to do terribly.
What's your view of a South Asian comic who goes on stage and does a thick South Asian accent where they don't actually speak like that?
Oh, if they don't actually speak like that.
But they would say their mom, their uncle, their grandpa speak like
they'll
that?
do the impressions.
Even do yeah.
That I would not ever do it myself. But it's a genre of comedy that there's an audience.
Said,
yes.
I absolutely hate it. Not the subcontinental comedian, but the East Asian equivalent.
Like it's not the comedy I enjoy. It's a valid form of people do the thing.
I don't even think it's valid. I think there's a certain level of snobbery in it. I feel like
snobbery. Oh, because does denote.
It feels like my parents haven't successfully transitioned, but I am the successful version.
Oh, that is because
I the finished westernized one, but not my parents. I really hate that.
Oh, there is. I didn't think about that.
But maybe I overthink myself.
If I ever do, like my mother said this, my dad said this, I'll do it in my voice usually.
That's actually one of the questions I had for some of my guests because it's a choice and it's an artistic choice. In my case, I don't have to, and I shouldn't because my mom will always talk to me in Mandarin, so it doesn't make sense.
Yes. Yeah.
Like my mom, obviously, she speaks English with an even thicker accent than I do, but we would never have a conversation in English. So when I retell the story, if I chose to do a very thick Mandarin accent for my mom, that's only because I'm clowning myself out in front of a Western audience.
Yeah, that is true.
So in that sense, either my mom is a butt of the joke or that accent is a butt of the joke, which is not my intention.
Neither of those things are good, really.
Yeah.
But like strange, like to use like in that genre of comedy, say like Russell Peters was the biggest example of that.
Yeah.
He doesn't do it badly. Like usually the punchline is the punchline and the accent is usually very accurate and it adds like texture to the punchline. It's still not like I wouldn't like sit down and watch an hour of it. But I remember the first Russell Peters special on YouTube. Fucking love that shit.
I actually didn't mind when he did the Chinese accent. I thought it was hilarious because he did it so well.
Yeah.
But what I didn't like is when he described between him and his dad. I just thought, you think you're better than your dad.
Yeah, but then everyone thinks they're better than their dad.
Everyone has a complicated relationship with their dad. But to think in the sort of immigrant hierarchy, you are a league above your parents. That's a different thing.
That's a different thing. Yeah.
But my example has always been, I never feel Margaret Cho credit herself socially higher than her parents. For her parents are generally funny and weirdo, and she celebrates that with them. But I just feel there's a little bit of snobbish attitude from Russell Peter when he talks about his dad.
I think that's a general, like, especially from another country, your parents moved here and you grew up here. There's that. Because then you're growing up in this new place as a kid and you want to be, as a kid, you just want to be like everyone else.
When you perform as an adult performer, you have a choice artistically how to handle that.
But then you're dealing with all that baggage. Because I got to move here as a semi-formed person. Of this is who I am. It is what it is. Whereas if I moved here as a teenager, early teenager, where I'm just like, please like me. Then you're more, I think, inclined.
Okay, so if someone doesn't know you well, you look like a cult leader. And then you give it like a modern cult leader vibe, and you take your follower to a small town.
Oh, that Netflix documentary, that Wild Country.
And you also mentioned you seem to have ability to subdue the audience. The way you talk, either because of that misconception of Asian culture, people see you, they see a guru, so they want to follow your yoga advice or something. Rather, it's the deep voice you have, your tone. It's very soothing. You have a way to subdue a crowd. You mentioned when we started recording that even a more raucous Hindu, you seem to be able to comment down a little bit.
Oh, yes. There was a Hindu at like a bottomless brunch type situation. So everyone was drunk as hell. And everyone else was getting interrupted before me. And then I went on and they were just like a nice high energy crowd. I'm guessing Hindu because they were in matching clothes. One of them tried to start talking and her friend like, whoosh, and I was like, oh, that's nice. That's very polite.
I don't know where this mysterious energy is from, but once people pay attention to what you say, you're very smart and intellectual. You do have a point of view, and you don't really want to impose your point of view on everyone. You simply want to share your point of view.
Yes, it is like this is what I think.
As to whether you take it or not, I'm fine with that. Because a lot of comics, I'm calling it the Jordan Peterson syndrome.
Oh, right.
They want to be that guy with that voice. They want to carry the world. They want to change the world. And they think they are a new 21st century George Carlin or Jordan Peterson.
George Carlin is like, I think what a lot of people try to do. Yeah, there's a demographic I'm thinking of, like younger white guy comedian that tries to be, what's the word I would put, like provocative, intellectually curious, this sort of, but for the
contrarian,
but for the sake of doing it,
people not knowing you well or not paying attention to your comedy may have the misperception that what you do is basically that, which is absolutely not true.
I think I'm not too different from, say, those people. The main difference is that if I'm talking about something, it's because there's also emotional, like I have a reason to talk about it internally.
That's very interesting. Can you elaborate more on that?
Like emotional weight behind, like I care about it and I think about it anyway. I wouldn't like this strange, weird habit. I think it's getting less now, finally. People want to talk about trans people for no reason when it has no like relevance to their life.
When you barely know anyone in your life.
But it's like, oh, this is a topic people are talking about. Let me like...
Can I quote one example from your first special, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
I think there was an absolutely brilliant bit you did about protecting Buddhism, not from Christianity or Muslim, but from middle-class white woman. I found it absolutely hilarious. But can we say that, because people do that. I even have one gag about that myself, but it becomes trendy to bash white women.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Bill Burr has done it. You're in a jacuzzi with me.
Oh, yes.
Jamali Matic has done it. So
interesting.
People have done it. But when you say that, it suddenly clicked for me. When you say you did it, there's an emotional attachment. You are genuinely annoyed how Buddhism has been.
Oh, weirdly, not annoyed. I think that one, I'm not annoyed, but I think it's specific enough because it's not all white women. When I say that,
I feel the same thing about they not knowing enough about the culture, but they are so unashamed about portraying themselves as the know-it-all of your religion.
Yes.
I'm like that you barely read.
Internal emotional connection give to a topic is specificity. Say people hear that bit. They don't think of white men in general. They think of like a very specific like hippie white lady that they know or have met. And that, I think specificity makes things funnier. When something's not relevant to you, you can't be specific. You don't know what you're talking about.
But what I'm saying is this is relevant to you.
Yes,
because you see how funny it is when they reduce your religion into consumerist symbols.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, just like basically they treat it like emoji and stickers. You have such a superficial superficial understanding of something, and that's actually the butt of your
Yes.
joke. But the reason you want to do this is not because it's fashionable to slag white women. It's because there's a general specific group that does this thing. And emotionally, you've really felt what? That has a effect on you. So
Yes,
that's why you want to cover it.
So is that really? And then it's just not as funny, weirdly, like when it's so removed from yourself. Because my immediate thought is like, why are you talking about this? Like,
It's just
why?
not authentic to you as a person.
Where it doesn't make sense. Like, and that like I'm disconnected immediately. But I think there's this very specific, and I'll call them an asshole, like an asshole audience that likes that.
Only because they don't actually have enough suffering and hardship in their life. Maybe they do. I just don't know enough about that.
I think different people find themselves to that state of being in different ways. I think the most common
Is this
would
just like
be,
a teenagers needing
Yes.
something to stand out for
exactly.
attention?
I think a general thing of like, it's a replacement for personality sort of thing.
So they are so bland that they need seasoning.
Yes, exactly. I think, and you
But
can-
when they choose seasoning, they don't even choose a natural spice. They just go for Tabasco.
yes, exactly. They're like, we don't whatever's around, whatever's fashionable.
So why do you think you become more like a thinker?
I think I'm just very in my head to begin with, sort of. Like
You're
as a-
always
as a-
wondering about things. Did you read a lot as a kid?
Yeah, like read a lot as a kid, read a lot now.
So is it a way for you to process why and how the world is functioning? How do we end up like this? You pose this question to yourself?
They're less big questions. I'm not really a big question. They're like small questions, but I ponder on them a great deal. Usually like stuff in my life.
The question you ask sometimes can be so big, but your ego isn't that big.
Like I don't care, generally don't, I think that might be a very like,
You care about what the audience is entertained.
that is very much a priority. A problem I noticed in the UK in particular, there's a lot of people that want to seem smart, and that usually makes them less funny. And it shows as well. Like I can tell, like this is a not very smart person trying to seem smarter than they are.
Ouch! You're doing shade better than the RuPaul contestants.
But the usual sign of intelligence is making a complex idea simple, whereas I see a lot of simple ideas being made complex.
It's like corporate people trying to do jargons when it's
Yes,
absolutely
yeah,
unnecessary.
this sort of thing. Like,
So scientists are able to do that, where corporate business people, they make unnecessary complicated things
Yeah.
because they have to hide behind
even
it.
down to like word selection, where a lot of people use like big words in a stand-up set. You will lose people using a needlessly
Can you
big
have an
word.
example? A
Oh,
random one you heard.
let me think. I feel like someone's used deleterious in a set once, or like
Is that cunt? I'm sorry.
no, we can't say that. Or like I watched a set where they referenced Nietzsche by name. That's immediately like. Also, if you read Nietzsche and you understand Nietzsche, you can talk about the concepts in that book or whatever book you read without bringing it up. Because
But were they doing like a specific character stage persona? So they have to tie that to their upper middle class.
I think they were just that.
So one of my comment is that you have a way with words. You can use big words, but you don't use a lot. When you use it, you nailed it. But you also are really good at using very simple language parallel.
I think I deliberately do simple language 90% of the time. Every
Yes.
now and then, if it's a good word, for me, big words that are good, and English is nice in this way. It has words that you don't use them all the time, but they sound like what they mean. Like petulant is a good example. Petulant
What's
sound.
petulant?
It means like a annoying, shitty person. There's a more specific definition, but it sounds like it means that as well.
Yeah.
Or like apoplectic. I used apoplectic, which means like very distraught.
Gosh, I have no idea what that means.
It's like at the end of the bit, I'm already playing the role of being quite distraught. Even if you have no idea what that word means, you sort of know in context this means that. And it's just a funnily big word. It's like the end tag of a thing.
So what I have this example, maybe this is not that big word per se, but when you talk about people perception of fat people, you say that you were a chubby kid and you lost weight in your teenage years. Every time people saw you when you got slimmer, you can't help but notice how happier they are, as if they notice their extra oxygens available.
Oh, right. Extra oxygen.
I know oxygen is not that big the word, but oxygen is also not.
It's not a daily.
It's not a daily word. And to use that word oxygen amongst all those simple words that you use, that really is the highlight of the joke. But when I meant the simple language, the other line you did is that people say that principles are principle, but you then say, but everyone has a price.
It's nice because phrases like that say a lot in very little. I think that's just like reading a lot, or like the writers I like do that very well. So it's like something I aspire to. And I like little bits like that.
That for me, that's beautiful. everyone got the pride. It's what I the strengths of using English as a language you perform in. Because with English, you can really go sophisticated, you can go Latin, but you can also go very punchy short word. And you're mixing 90% of the short with the 10%
Which
of
is like a
random.
little bit of something, you know? A little
Yeah.
like, it's like garnish on a dish. I think like any writer performer, what you do is very related to who you are. And I just read a lot, and I'm very specific about, like, I read a lot, but I also will like put a book down if it's not
I
interesting
think
me.
you won't admit that you want to say it, but my interpretation is you read a lot and you write the jokes in this way, but your primary concern is not to show off or make people perceive.
People shouldn't know that I read a lot.
Your intention is not to make people perceive that you may have read a lot. Some comics would just be like, I want to make people think I'm a very smart person.
But then
There's a difference in that.
like say wanting people to think you're intelligent comes from an insecurity of your own intelligence. Well,
Yeah.
I'm secure in my intelligence.
Which is weird because most comedians are quite damaged and
Yeah. What, that I'm secure in my own intelligence?
Yeah.
I think that because up till recent, I was a generally very insecure person, and the only thing I was secure about is my intelligence, because it's the thing I have a track record of like using my intelligence to get things in life. So I was like, oh, I have this at least. So that's
your core.
up till recently, that was like my main, like I hung a lot of my confidence on that. Now I'm a little bit more balanced.
Do you feel you need white people's goodwill for your jokes to be able to work, to pull it off?
Not goodwill. I need them to be
Because if
like,
you don't pay attention, it feels like your joke builds on a minority accusing white people of what they had done wrong before. But only when you listen to the layers of it, it's not actually that. A very typical trope for a foreigner or minority is to go on stage and say, you
complain
white
about-
people, you're evil.
I think that delivery and vibe specific, I think I come across very like peaceful. So people don't, the guard is down and they're happy to listen to what I have to say. Because usually when people deliver things that like are complaining about something external to them, in the case if you're a minority, that's very often racism, that it's done in a somewhat aggressive way, naturally, because you're going to feel aggressive about something. But then that's what makes someone feel because I think when a white audience doesn't like that material, it's defensive. It's not that they're racist. They just don't want it being delivered in a more too direct a way. It makes them like look at themselves in a way that's a little bit uncomfortable immediately. Whereas if you do it softly, they'll just listen to you then and they'll have fun. If they think about it later, they think about it later. But it's like a finessing them a little bit.
Yeah. But does that give you delight to try their limit and say, yeah, I got it right? Or the way you do those lines, have you thought about
Not
it?
specific to like racial material, just in general, like when a bit works, especially when it's a bit, I think, how do I make this work? And then when it works, it's like, oh, it works. That's nice.
I like to poke people, just at being naughty. And if I poke them a little bit and they're like, ooh, and for me that's funny. But I try not to overdo it because I noticed they get uncomfortable. But I also think the way you managed to work, because quite often you yourself is the butt of your joke. You are the selfish, petty,
yes, exactly.
annoying person.
I will take the moral low ground.
But is that a deliberate choice?
So I think it's funnier. It still gets the point across.
But is that person 100% true, or you make yourself lower morally in the comedy set than you actually are?
No, it's like at least based on thoughts that I will actually have. Like say,
thoughts you may not have acted
let me
on.
think. The example I can think of, it's very anti-Western country, but does very well even in a mostly white audience, is like I have the bit of like, oh, people say immigrants are just here for their resources. And it really, whenever I hear that, it upsets me because people know my plan. That's sort of completely true. Like I have no emotional attachment to the places I've lived in. Well, actually, that's not. I have an emotional attachment to Berlin now, and starting to have one to London. But my intention for being here is very like follow my dreams and all that nonsense.
It's the means, not the end.
Yes, like I didn't move here out of love for this country. I moved here for myself,
Which would not be rational.
Yeah, that would be weird. I mean, there are Anglophiles, but then I'm not one of them. Well, it's like a comedically exaggerated version of the thought that I have of like that's why I'm here. I think like the last tag in that is that this is an extended business trip. And that I am sort of the villain in that situation.
But a comical villain.
Yeah, like a comical villain, and it's still like the subtext of that is like, this is the case because of colonization, and like my country doesn't have resources, so I go to other countries that have more opportunities for me, and there's a historic, and all that I think I could say that out loud, but that's not that funny. Someone might not see all of that on first listen of that joke, but then if they like remember it later, that's the subtext. I think all of that stuff is nice as like, and that's good writing for me, is like when there's a thing that you hear and that entertains the audience, and then there's subtext to it that is implied, but you don't have to say it because it kills the vibe.
Only three so far. You
Yes,
don't need to
only
worry
three.
about it. I made you so conscious.
I'm gonna keep it at
Okay,
three.
I'm conscious of time,
no
so I have
worries.
one final question. You are a very shrewd, modern 21st century performer in that you really seek quality in your video online offering. And I think at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival last year wasn't particularly that kind to the level of quality of a show you brought on, but your professionally shot special, which you release in bits on Instagram and TikTok, really pay off.
That was a lucky break, that.
No, it's absolutely great. And also, you mentioned in the podcast today in 2020, you always had this plan. You want to make really good quality stuff. You execute your plan accordingly, and it paid off. Kudos to that.
Oh, thank you.
Why does this insistence on the video quality come
I
from?
think like because video quality isn't just like that you get a good camera. The way people see you, like the way people are exposed to you is important. So say like the more common way of doing is stand-up clips like from a phone and you put them and they can go viral. But then I think this is like my hypothesis about it. If people see you in something that is like made well and clearly made to be like a good piece of work, they will see you in that light of like, this is a professional performer. Whereas if I recorded it like on my phone and I put out crowd work clips, even if I go viral, I'm still in the mix of the other people doing that same thing. And I just care about like, that's why I sort of was very resistant doing any social media stuff, because it's generally a quantity game. You know, I'm a snobby little artist boy and I want anything I put my name on to be of a piece of work of worth. And a part of that is production value. I'm very clear about the career I want, very shrewd in like what will most likely lead to that. And I think putting out like a good piece of work is important. And then production quality is definitely a part of that.
So you're happy to say you're shrewd and you're ambitious and you know what you want. But I think you'll be too humble to say this. I'll say this for you. But if it's wrong, I'm going to cut it. I think you do comedy out of love for this craft, but you don't enjoy the admin side of it. So you are playing the necessary game to get yourself easier to get an audience, to reach an audience, so that you'll be able to focus more just on writing and performing. That is why you're willing to do this at this stage. It's a necessary investment of your time and energy.
In a perfect world, I mean, to be fair, the filming, like being able to produce, direct, and edit my own special, like that I enjoy. I'm happy to do that. It's the chunking it up into clips to put it on social media. Because it could have been an hour by itself. We were very happy with like as an hour finished piece of work, recording. But then practically, like that's
social media Hollywood these days.
That's the practical where like also I was like more or less completely unknown. No one's gonna watch an hour of someone they don't know. They'll watch like a little bit, you know. And I was aware of like this is a way to be seen. And it was very much like a shot in the dark that hit. Because there is a thing of like you can make a good piece of work and people can still not care. So the fact that, you know, if like enough people seem to care that now things are going better, that is luck. Like there's always an aspect of like you can work real hard and you can make a good thing, but then you still need some luck, and luck happened. So I'm happy. The Fringe was rough. It was a generally rough year. And I was like, oh, okay, I got a nice little break. Yeah.
You're blushing. I'm not going to force it upon you. So basically, there's luck, but it's not just luck. And I'll leave it there. And from what he said for the hour and a half we spent here, Vidura is really, I think, a very smart comedian. Where can we find you on social media?
Vidura BR on all of the places. Instagram is where I'm most active, but then it's very much I finished putting out the hour. There will be nothing there for another year and a half. But if you want to see me live, I usually post it there. Or my website is also vidurabr.com. VIDURABR. Everywhere. A
lot of you would have known him so far, but if you haven't, do catch him. Don't miss the gem. We are lucky to have him in London. So today, thank you for coming, Vidura.
No,
thank you. So we're gonna go have our lunch now.
Yes.
Bye. Oh, that's great.
Oh, that was so much okay.